Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Adam Newman finally does what no one believed he could fully do again. He chooses Victor Newman, not out of fear, not out of desperation, but out of cold, calculated conviction. And in doing so, he shatters Jack Abbott's trust, obliterates the fragile illusion of peace between the Newman and Abbott dynasties, and crowns himself as the most dangerous Newman of them all. As the story unfolds with Adam standing at the crossroads of loyalty and ambition, having spent months convincing Jack that he was sincere, redeemed, changed, a man desperate to step out from his father's shadow, only for every whispered promise, every late-night confession, every shared strategy session at Chabot to be revealed as part of a long con that Victor himself secretly admired, because while Jack believed he was mentoring Adam into a better man, Victor knew his son was sharpening himself into a weapon. And the betrayal hits with brutal force when Adam, standing in the Chabot boardroom during what Jack believes is a decisive victory over Newman Enterprises, calmly slides a folder across the table containing documents Jack never knew existed. Documents that strip Abbott Chancellor of its leverage, expose Jack's confidential merger maneuvers, and reroute power directly back into Victor's hands. And in that moment the room goes silent. Because Adam doesn't flinch, doesn't apologize, doesn't explain himself. He simply looks Jack in the eye and says the words that echo like a gunshot. No more lies. And Jack's face collapses not in anger but in disbelief, because this betrayal isn't sloppy or impulsive. It's precise, surgical, devastating, and as Victor enters the room moments later, having orchestrated the timing to perfection, the truth becomes undeniable that Adam didn't just return to the Newman fold, he negotiated his return on his own terms, positioning himself not as Victor's pawn but as his heir apparent, a revelation that sends shockwaves through Nikki, who watches her husband and son exchange a look of mutual respect that terrifies her more than any open war ever could, because she knows what it means when Victor sees himself reflected so clearly in one of his children, and Adam's alliance with Victor is not built on obedience, but on shared philosophy. Power must be taken, never given. Trust is a weakness, and sentiment is a liability. And this philosophical alignment becomes painfully clear as Jack confronts Adam privately, demanding to know whether anything they shared was real, and Adam, with tears threatening but never falling, admits that it was real, too real, which is why he had to destroy it before it destroyed him, because loving the Abbotts, believing in their version of honor, nearly made him forget who he was, nearly made him weak, and that confession hurts Jack more than the betrayal itself, because it means Adam didn't just use him, he chose Victor anyway. And as news spreads across Genoa City, alliances fracture instantly, with Kyle reeling from the realization that the man he cautiously trusted has gutted his family's legacy, while Diane is forced to confront the terrifying truth that Adam's redemption arc was never about forgiveness, it was about dominance. And meanwhile, Victor wastes no time asserting the new order, announcing a sweeping corporate restructuring that places Adam in a newly created position of authority, one that bypasses Victoria and Nick entirely, and the sibling fallout is immediate and vicious, with Victoria accusing Victor of undermining her leadership, and Nick openly declaring that Adam will destroy everything he touches. But Adam fires back with chilling calm, pointing out that everything the Newmans built was forged through destruction, not mercy, and that hypocrisy is no longer acceptable. And as Victor watches his children tear into each other, there is not regret in his eyes but pride, because this is exactly the crucible he believes forges true leaders, and yet even Victor is caught off guard by just how far Adam is willing to go, because Adam doesn't stop at corporate betrayal. He strategically dismantles Jack's personal safety net, leaking just enough information to isolate him from potential allies without exposing himself, forcing Jack into a defensive posture that feels eerily similar to how Victor once broke him decades ago. And the cruel irony is not lost on anyone, especially Tracy, who sees Adam's actions not as evil but as tragic repetition, a son becoming his father. Because the world refused to let him be anything else, and still Adam presses forward. Because for him this is not revenge, it is evolution, and as the town debates whether Adam is a villain or a survivor, Adam himself makes his most shocking declaration yet in a private moment with Victor, stating plainly that he does not want to inherit Newman Enterprises one day. He wants it now, not as a gift but as a proving ground, daring Victor to challenge him, daring him to admit that Adam may be the only Newman ruthless enough to protect the Empire in a world that has moved past old rules, and Victor, never one to back down from a challenge, accepts in his own way, not by stepping aside but by unleashing obstacles, tests, and traps designed to see if Adam can survive what he himself once survived. And this sets the stage for a new kind of war, not Newman versus Abbott, but Newman versus Newman. With Adam positioned dangerously in the center, trusted by no one, feared by everyone, and yet undeniably effective, because under his leadership profits surge, rivals retreat, and enemies fall silent, forcing even his critics to admit that Adam gets results, and yet beneath the surface of this triumph lies a personal cost that Adam cannot escape, because every victory isolates him further, every ruthless decision burns another bridge, and the one person who truly saw him, Jack, is now his sworn enemy. And when Jack vows that this betrayal will not stand, that the Abbotts will rise again, Adam doesn't laugh or taunt, he simply nods, because part of him hopes Jack will fight back, hopes someone will be strong enough to challenge him, to stop him from becoming exactly what Victor is. But hope is a luxury Adam no longer believes in, and as the final moments of this explosive chapter unfold, Adam stands alone in Victor's office late at night, looking out over Genoa City, holding the weight of what he has done, what he has lost, and what he has gained. And when Victor joins him, offering a rare word of approval, Adam doesn't smile, because he knows this alliance is temporary, conditional, and ultimately doomed, since two men like them cannot coexist peacefully for long, and the haunting truth settles in that Adam's greatest betrayal was not of Jack Abbott, but of the part of himself that once believed he could choose a different path. And as the lights of the city flicker below, the young and the restless enters a bold new era where lies are stripped away. Loyalty is a weapon, and Adam Newman rises not as a redeemed hero, but as the most formidable, unpredictable force Genoa City has ever seen. And yet the fallout from Adam's choice to side with Victor does not settle into simple victory or defeat, because in Genoa City nothing ever truly ends, it only mutates, and as the days following the betrayal stretch into weeks, the psychological aftershocks ripple outward, revealing layers of consequence that even Adam did not fully anticipate, beginning with Jack Abbott, who refuses to crumble the way Victor once did under similar blows, instead retreating into a cold, strategic silence that unnerves everyone around him, because Jack's quiet has always been more dangerous than his rage, and as he sits alone in his office after hours, staring at the photos of his family lining the walls, he makes a vow not of revenge, but of reclamation, determined to reclaim not just Abbott power, but the moral high ground Adam so deliberately abandoned. And this internal shift marks a critical turning point, because Jack stops seeing Adam as a misguided soul worth saving and starts seeing him as a calculated adversary who must be neutralized. And while Jack publicly maintains composure, privately he begins assembling a web of alliances far beyond Genoa City, reaching out to old rivals and forgotten contacts, people who owe him favors or share his interest in weakening the Newmans, and each call he makes tightens the net, even as Adam, unaware of the full scope of Jack's response, continues consolidating power within Newman Enterprises, pushing through reforms that are efficient, ruthless, and undeniably effective, cutting costs, eliminating redundancy, and expanding into markets Victor once dismissed as too volatile, moves that thrill shareholders but unsettle the Newman family, particularly Victoria, who finds herself increasingly sidelined by a brother she never believed could outmaneuver her so completely, and her resentment deepens not just because Adam is winning, but because Victor is letting him, even encouraging him, creating a dynamic where Victoria feels betrayed by both father and brother, and this emotional fracture becomes fertile ground for manipulation, because while Victor believes pitting his children against each other will sharpen them, Adam understands something Victor often ignores. Resentment can be weaponized, and in a series of subtle, calculated conversations, Adam begins nudging Victoria toward decisions that appear independent but ultimately serve his long-term strategy, allowing her to believe she is fighting back when in reality she is clearing obstacles for him, and this layered manipulation underscores just how far Adam has evolved, because he is no longer reacting to Victor's games. He is playing several moves ahead, even anticipating Victor's counterattacks, and yet for all his brilliance, Adam's personal life begins to unravel, because power offers no insulation from loneliness, and Sally, watching Adam's transformation with growing alarm, confronts him about what he's becoming, reminding him of the man who once dreamed of building something meaningful without crushing everyone in his path, and for a brief moment Adam falters, tempted to confess the fear gnawing at him that if he stops pushing, even for a second, he will be consumed by the very legacy he's trying to control. But instead of opening up, he shuts her out, choosing authority over intimacy, a decision that costs him dearly when Sally ultimately walks away, unwilling to watch him sacrifice his soul piece by piece, and her departure leaves Adam shaken in a way no boardroom battle ever could, because it confirms his deepest fear that choosing Victor means choosing isolation, and still he presses forward, because retreat is no longer an option. Not when Victor has begun testing him more aggressively, planting false crises to see how Adam responds, leaking misleading information, staging near catastrophes designed to force Adam into impossible decisions, and each time Adam survives, adapts, and emerges stronger, earning Victor's respect while simultaneously intensifying Victor's paranoia, because Victor recognizes the signs all too well. Adam is becoming him, but without the blind spots that once plagued his own rise. And this realization ignites a dangerous undercurrent of rivalry, masked by mutual admiration, as father and son circle each other like predators, each aware that the other could strike at any moment, and the tension becomes palpable when Victor makes an unexpected announcement at a Newman family gathering, declaring his intention to step back temporarily, citing health and the need to evaluate the future of the company, a move that sends shockwaves through the room, because everyone understands what it means. Victor is inviting a power struggle, and Adam does not hesitate, immediately asserting his claim with a calm authority that silences objections, while Nick openly challenges him, accusing him of orchestrating the entire situation, and the brothers' confrontation explodes into raw, painful truths about favoritism, abandonment, and the scars Victor left on all of them, and in that emotional chaos, Adam delivers his most brutal line yet, telling Nick that moral superiority has never built an empire and that clinging to it only ensures defeat, words that cut deeply because they echo Victor's philosophy almost verbatim, and Nikki, watching her sons tear each other apart, realizes too late that Adam's alliance with Victor has unleashed something far more destructive than another Newman-Abbott war. It has shattered the fragile bonds holding her family together, and as Nikki confronts Victor privately, accusing him of sacrificing his children on the altar of power, Victor deflects, insisting that survival requires strength, not sentiment, but Nikki sees the flicker of doubt he cannot fully hide, because even Victor is starting to wonder whether Adam's ascent is something he can truly control, and that doubt proves justified when Adam makes a move that crosses an unspoken line, quietly acquiring leverage over a long-standing Newman ally without Victor's knowledge, not to use immediately but to have, demonstrating a level of independence that borders on insubordination. And when Victor discovers this, the confrontation is electric, father and son facing off in Victor's office, trading barbed truths and veiled threats, with Adam finally saying aloud what has hovered between them for months, that he did not return to be Victor's soldier, but his successor, and Victor, equal parts furious and impressed, warns Adam that ambition without loyalty is a death sentence, to which Adam responds that loyalty without respect is just obedience. And that exchange crystallizes their relationship into something irrevocably altered, no longer father and son, but rivals bound by blood and legacy. And as this internal Newman war escalates, Jack's counterstrike finally begins to surface, subtle at first, then unmistakable, as rumors emerge of a shadow consortium targeting Newman Enterprises' newest ventures, driving up costs, delaying permits, and undermining investor confidence, and Adam immediately recognizes Jack's handiwork. feeling a strange mix of dread and admiration, because Jack is not lashing out blindly, he is dismantling Adam's strategy piece by piece, forcing him into defensive maneuvers that stretch his resources thin, and the battle becomes as much psychological as financial, with Jack leaking just enough information to remind Adam of what he lost, weaponizing shared memories and former trust, and in a quiet moment alone, Adam admits to himself that Jack is the one opponent he never wanted, the one man who saw potential instead of pathology. And that knowledge fuels both his resolve and his regret, because backing down now would render his betrayal meaningless, and so Adam doubles down, executing a bold, high-risk move to outflank Jack entirely, one that could either cement his dominance or destroy him completely, and as the deal teeters on the edge of collapse, the entire town holds its breath, because everyone understands what is at stake is not just corporate power, but the future identity of Adam Newman himself. And when the deal finally closes successfully, the victory is hollow, because the cost is immediate and devastating. Jack's consortium dissolves, Abbott Chancellor takes a public hit, and Jack himself steps back from day-to-day leadership. But instead of triumph, Adam feels a crushing weight, because he has finally beaten the man he once hoped to become, and that realization settles over him like a curse. And in the aftermath, Victor approaches Adam not with congratulations but with a warning, reminding him that the higher he climbs, the fewer places there are to stand, words that ring ominously. As Adam surveys the wreckage of his ascent, seeing fractured families, broken relationships, and enemies waiting patiently for his next misstep, and as the young and the restless pushes forward into this new era, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. Adam's choice to side with Victor has not ended the lies. It has simply replaced them with harsher truths, that power demands sacrifice, that loyalty is conditional, and that becoming the new force in Genoa City means accepting a life where victory and loss are forever intertwined. And in the final haunting image of this chapter, Adam stands once again at the window overlooking the city, not triumphant, not remorseful, but resolute, knowing that there is no path back, only forward, into a future where he is no longer running from his name, his blood, or his destiny, but embracing them fully, even if it means becoming the very storm everyone else fears, because in Genoa City, survival does not belong to the pure, but to the relentless, and Adam Newman has finally, irrevocably chosen to be relentless. But even relentlessness has a price, and as Adam settles into his new reality, the emotional reckoning he has postponed begins to surface in quieter, more dangerous ways, because victories lose their adrenaline and are replaced by long nights filled with doubt. And in those moments, Adam is forced to confront the truth that power cannot silence memory, especially the memory of the man he once tried to be, the man Jack believed in, and this internal conflict manifests in unexpected hesitation. During critical decisions, brief pauses that Victor notices immediately, because Victor has always recognized weakness, not as fear but as reflection, and he warns Adam that hesitation is the first crack in any empire, a warning that cuts deep because Adam knows Victor is right, even as he resents him for it, and this tension escalates when Nick makes a startling move of his own, stepping away from Newman Enterprises entirely to pursue an independent venture, a move that shocks the family and alarms Victor, because Nick's departure signals something Victor never anticipated, that Adam's rise is not just creating enemies, it is driving away those who refuse to fight him, and this unintended consequence rattles Adam more than open hostility ever could, because Nick's exit feels like a silent indictment, a refusal to validate the game Adam has chosen to play, and as the family splinters further, Nikki attempts one last intervention, reaching out to Adam privately and asking him, not as a strategist, but as a mother, whether all of this has truly made him feel whole, and for a fleeting moment Adam almost confesses the emptiness he carries, the gnawing fear that once Victor is gone there will be nothing left to conquer, but instead he masks his vulnerability behind logic, telling Nikki that stability requires sacrifice, and Nikki leaves the conversation heartbroken, realizing that Adam has armored himself so completely that even love cannot reach him anymore, and this emotional Isolation becomes dangerous when external threats begin to close in, because rival corporations, emboldened by the Newman family's internal fractures, start testing Adam's defenses, probing for weakness, forcing him into a relentless cycle of reaction and control that leaves no room for reflection. And as the pressure mounts, Adam begins to mirror Victor more overtly, adopting his tactics, his language, even his posture, a transformation that does not go unnoticed by the people around him, who whisper that Adam has become Victor's shadow rather than his successor, and this perception infuriates Adam because he believes his evolution is about surpassing his father, not copying him, and in a bold attempt to define